Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2022, and today I want to talk to you all about family conflict. Traditionally, families are supposed to be a source of love, support, nurturance, caring, and concern, but lately that has not been the case. In many families now, a lot of people are reporting a lot of conflict, especially around the holidays when extended relatives come over and you have all these different personalities in the room. It can lead to a lot of clashing, a lot of just conflict and discord, you know? I know in my family, oftentimes when people started to have one too many, they started to unpack a lot of childhood wounds, a lot of traumas, and it was always the blame game. Who did what to who? You did this to me when I was 3, and you did this to me when I was 5, and everybody would just blame each other, and there was no resolution. It was just a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of angry words, a lot of pontification, people trying to be right as opposed to really connect. You know, the purpose of these gatherings were to actually connect, but instead they just became just shouting matches where people just yell and scream and just get angry with one another. So it was not productive at all. Most times people just left angry talking about how they'll never return. So how is that helpful? But I think, to be honest, a major source of family conflict, the refusal to respect someone's right to make their own decisions, the refusal to respect someone else's journey. You know, when you refuse to respect someone else's right to find their own way, and you try and control their journey, that's where problems arise. I think that a lot of people expect you to live up to their expectations. They don't respect your right to choose your own path. And when they say that they do respect your right to choose your own path, it usually is a path that they co-sign. You know, as long as they're in agreement with your journey, sure, you can choose your own journey. But the moment that your journey takes a different turn, when it diverges, all of a sudden you start to notice that there's this conflict. And I think families have really got to start respecting people's journey. Not everybody's journey is linear. Everybody has a different path. Some journeys are just entangled with so many different twists and turns. And that can make many family members feel uncomfortable. I know that they care. At the heart of it, they care, and they want to make sure that you don't hurt yourself as you journey on. But there comes a point where care starts to look like control. And so when that happens, you start to realize that there's no respect. There's no respect. People want you to do what they want you to do, how they want you to do it, when they want you to do it. And when you choose a different path, all of a sudden they just wash their hands of you. You know? So I think a lot of family conflict arises once again from the lack of respect for somebody else's journey. I think also boundary violations. A lot of family members did not grow up with healthy boundaries. They weren't raised on a diet of healthy boundaries. There was numerous violations growing up for them. And so that's how they learned boundaries or didn't learn boundaries. And so I think our generation oftentimes we're blessed to have a lot of information, and we learned about the importance of establishing healthy boundaries. And so when you set a boundary with someone, oftentimes they will get defensive, they will get angry, they will get upset, they will rage out because they don't understand that boundaries really are an act of love. Boundaries help preserve love. When you know what line not to cross in order to keep, I guess, in order to keep that bond solid, when you know that, it helps increase trust, it helps increase love. And when you respect somebody's boundaries, you're also showing love. I think, to be honest, respecting other people's boundaries is a love language, especially in this day and age, because a lot of people, the moment that you say that you don't like something or that you won't tolerate something, people are quick to be like, well, okay, well, forget you, bye, bye. And they're ready to wash their hands of you. And that's not okay. That's not okay. That lack of respect for another person's boundaries, I think, really creates conflict. Another source of conflict, I think, is just different belief systems. And I think not respecting a person's right to believe what they want to believe. You know? Oftentimes, a lot of family, they get into conflict when they discuss religion, they discuss politics, and it's just this source of tension, you know? And I think that people have got to definitely respect a person's right to believe what they want to believe. You can offer your insights and opinions. Definitely, we can trade information. I'm open to that. But at the same time, you have to learn that people have the right, even if you feel that it's wrong or if it's right or whatever your feelings are, they have the right to choose what they want to choose. We're all created as free moral agents. And whether you agree with someone's choices or not, they have the right to make those choices. And some people will counter that with saying, well, I reserve the right also to make a choice not to deal with that person. And you're right. Everybody has a choice. But I think also conflict is the result of lack of respect. You can choose not to deal with somebody and still love them. That's okay. That's okay. And I'm learning that. I realize that we're all changing and growing and evolving. And I think that even within my family, I've noticed that sometimes it feels like I don't know certain members of my family anymore. Like they've changed. And I don't know how to interact with them. So I have to relearn them. And I know we all change, we all grow, we all evolve. And when you don't spend a lot of time with certain family members, you don't always know the many ways in which they've changed. And so you have to relearn what makes them tick, what makes them happy, sad, what makes them angry, what makes them upset, what makes them joyous. You have to relearn them. And I think a lot of times, families, they still operate from outdated scripts. They think that this person is the same person that they once knew. And that's not always true. People are entitled to change. They have the right to change their mind and change their behavior. And so we have to make room for those changes. We have to accommodate those changes within the family system, And when I say accommodate changes, I also mean accommodate a person's right to change, Accommodate their right, make room for the option of transformation. A lot of families don't do that. They want you to be how they want you to be. And if you're not that person anymore, then they say, oh, you've changed. And they don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. But once again, it's just the lack of respect. That's a major source of family. When you get to the root of it, it's just the lack of respect. I think also, there's a lot of families who have some real toxic dynamics, real toxic in terms of the way that they speak to one another, in terms of the way that they handle conflict. I think one toxic approach is the silent treatment. You know, the silent treatment is emotional abuse. And quite frankly, it's psychological violence too. It's a form of manipulation because people like to keep you off balance. And so they don't want to give you a response. I recently had my sister try and do this technique with me. And my intention was to let her know how this made me feel. But I realized, I don't have time for the emotional abuse. I don't have time for those games. So I sent a message, letting her know how this made me feel. No response, which is okay. It's fine, But at the same time, I realized that now I have to take steps. I have to take steps because when you tell somebody that something bothers you and they continue to do it or they ignore your feelings, then you have to ask yourself, do I want this type of person in my life? Do I want this type of person to continue to occupy my healthy space? Will having this person in my space just create a toxic environment for me? Will they have me revert to old patterns of behavior that I'm trying to no longer do, no longer participate in? I'm not trying to be that old person that wants to, that old personality type that rages out. No. If you start to see that people trigger certain patterns of behavior that you're trying to move away from, you have to reevaluate your position in their life. It's unfortunate. It really is. It's hard, but you have to reevaluate. I know that certain family members I had to distance myself from, certain friendships even, I've had to distance myself from because I realized that they don't reflect who I want to be in the world anymore. They also are not sources of safety. I can't be the person that I want to be when I'm with this person anymore. I used to be able to, but as I mentioned earlier, people change and you make space for those changes while at the same time realizing that, wait a minute, does this work for me? If this does not work for me, well, then I have to reevaluate their position in my life. And so once again, everybody has the right to choose what they want in their lives. And sometimes, and this could be difficult to hear, sometimes the family that we want does not feel it's safe for them to be around us. And so they distance themselves. And so we have to respect that. Is it hurtful? Yes, especially when you want to create a loving, close-knit bond. It's hurtful. But as I mentioned before, everybody has the right to choose who they want in their life and who they want within their inner circle. And so you also reserve the right to choose who you want in your life. You don't have to tolerate abuse, disrespect, ignorance. You don't have to tolerate any of that. And I think a lot of families these days, they feel like, oh, well, if you don't put up with that, then you're not loyal. We have this toxic sense of loyalty, this ride or die mentality, where we just got to put up with anything in order to be perceived as loyal. No. There are limits to loyalty. And that's once again boundaries. You have to establish boundaries within certain systems like loyalty and trust and love. All of these systems have got to have within their structure boundaries. Because if they have no boundaries, then you're going to find yourself giving more. You're going to find yourself doing the most. You're going to find yourself being guilted and shamed when you don't want to put up with toxic behavior. So you have to establish boundaries within each of these systems, within trust, within love, within loyalty, because people will have you doing the most. And then when you no longer want to do that, they'll try to guilt you. And that's another thing that families toxic, that leads to a lot of family conflict. This tendency to try to guilt people, guilt and shame them when they stand up for themselves and when they refuse to tolerate poor behavior. So my thing is this. With family conflict, I'm a firm believer in taking people to the side, having that one-on-one conversation with them, letting them know how their behaviors have affected you and how you want to build a relationship, but you realize that these behaviors might be an impediment to that. And if after that, they want to still do what they want to do, okay. They are entitled to be who they want to be in the world, but you are also entitled to have people in your life who honor the person that you're trying to become. It's just that simple. And so while we make space for people and we honor their journey, sometimes we also have to realize that they aren't who we need right now. And so once again, you have to always do a needs assessment on yourself. Ask yourself what you need emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. You know, you have to ask yourself what you need from these people. And then see who matches up with what you need. Because forced compatibility, that's not the answer. Trying to force a connection, nah, it's not going to work. You have to definitely make sure that people are going your way. And as I mentioned before, family conflict, how to manage it, definitely taking the family member to the side, talking with them, letting them know. If they refuse to hear you at this time, okay, that's cool. You can write a letter. If they refuse to respect you, well, then you're going to have to distance yourself. You're going to have to protect your energy. Because there are so many people, including family, that are energy suckers. They will suck the energy and the life right out of you. You will leave encounters with them feeling drained, feeling lifeless, feeling hopeless. And that's not how you should leave, especially with families. The very nature and the very thought and the connotation of families is one of support, love, nurturance. You feel empowered and renewed. If you leave a family gathering feeling empty and feeling drained, well then that's a toxic family dynamic. There's something toxic within that family dynamic that you need to examine, you know? But if you leave a family function and you're feeling energized, you're feeling like, wow, I know my roots. I know where I come from. I know who I am based on my loving family that reminds me, because your family is supposed to remind you where you come from. They're supposed to remind you of who you are. They're supposed to hold up a mirror to you and show you who you are and reinforce that. If they're not reinforcing who you are and who you want to be in the world, well then, are they your family? You know, because I'm realizing there's a big difference between family and blood. Blood ties, you know, you're born into them. They're what's given to you. But family are people, for me, family are people that love you, that are a safe space, that are a touchstone where you could just go back when you're feeling lost in the world, when you're feeling like you don't know which way to turn. You can go back to your family as a touchstone and as a source of comfort to remind you of who you are. And so you have to determine, do you have family or just blood? Because blood ain't enough. It's not enough these days. So, hope this video was helpful. For those who are trying to navigate family conflict, definitely utilize the tools that I provided in terms of taking the family member to the side, having this discussion, writing a letter, and also protecting your peace. Choosing the appropriate time, because timing is everything. You know, sometimes having that discussion right then and there might not be the best time, so choosing an appropriate time could be helpful too. And just using these tools can definitely help you navigate family conflict. And if the family member, if they're willing to go into therapy, family counseling, that's even better, because you can unpack certain dynamics and certain patterns that emerge in the family within the counseling realm. So if they're willing to do counseling, family counseling, definitely take them up on that. So this is Lewis Speaks. If you like the video, definitely share, comment. I'm definitely interested in your feedback. All right? Peace, y'all.